Our Diaspora series tonight with a woman who has defied the odds in Australia, from surviving a debilitating stroke to revolutionizing Australia's disability sector. Emily Korir defines what making a comeback looks like. As a result of her work in the disability housing space, Emily has earned global accolades, including a nomination for Australian of the Year. She's Kenyan, though. Now, Forbes Australia described her journey as the unstoppable rise of Emily Korir. Ahead of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities tomorrow, Emily joins me in studio now. Thank you so much for coming in. You have such an amazing story. I was looking through your profile, and I just kept thinking, what is it that she can't do at this rate? But for our viewers who don't know who you are, just give us a bit of a backstory on who Emily is.
Thank you so much for having me. I am truly honored and humbled to be here. I see you, we watch you in Australia, and to be here with you tonight is just amazing. So I'm Emily Korir, born in Bomet, in Sort, that's the most remote part of Bomet. Born out of rape. My mom was 14 years old when she had me. She was raped, and my father, or whoever the man was, denied me at birth. So I'm raised by two very strong single women. That was my grandmother and my mom. Very powerful. My grandma is late, but she's a very big part of who I am. I now married in Kipkelion East in Kericho to an amazing man, Bernard Tanui. I've got two children, Brittany and Bradley, both tennis players.
Wow.
And I am the CEO of BT Group in Australia now.
Right.
But how did that come about? I guess is what you want to know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So Bernard and I are high school sweethearts, and when I graduated in Australia, he came and he proposed, and I moved to the US. We lived in the US for 8 years. Brittany is born in the US, and we decided to go back in 2008 during the credit crunch, and was doing life, working normal. In 2012, Bradley was only a few months old. Chebet was 6. We're getting ready to go to a friend's 40th birthday. Pam is watching tonight, and I was going to be the MC at this party. Yeah. We get ready, and as finished cleaning the house, I thought, okay, it's time for me to, because I was going to be the MC, get ready. I get this sharp headache, and I thought, oh, let me have Panadol before we leave, so I get there, I'm ready. So I go to the kitchen to get my 2 Panadols. I'm walking back to my room, and these 2 tablets fall, but I didn't think anything of it. I just picked the 2 tablets, put my hand, I walk again, they fall, and Chebet was playing with Kibet on the floor, and she goes, Mom, why are you playing with your medicine? I said, I'm not. She said, I'll pick it up for you. But as she was picking up the medicine, I'm falling, so she screams, Dad, something is wrong with Mom. So my husband comes running and goes, honey, are you okay? And apparently I didn't say anything, and then I had just had Bradley, so I was a bit chubby, he couldn't carry me. But he pulls me to the bed, and then he asks me, honey, are you okay? And I said to him, let's get the Mercedes ready. We'll take that to the party.
Wow, so your mind was not even...
At this time, we didn't have a Mercedes. So he knew then something was really wrong. So he calls ambulance 911, and they ask him to talk to me, but apparently I'm now going in and out of consciousness. My husband says the first ambulance was there within 7 minutes.
Wow.
Saved my life. But when the ambulance got there, the guys that were in the ambulance said, actually, they said to my husband, she's had a stroke. But my husband said no, because it was my late 30s. She's only young. You don't know her. It can be a stroke, because to him, stroke was a senior citizen event. It's not for young people. And they said to him, actually, we've called another ambulance because this one is not equipped.
Oh, wow.
Because stroke attacks have to start actually at the house. So a second ambulance arrived within 10 minutes, and then another smaller car came. I had a heart doctor and a neurologist who started treatment straight away. But now at this point, Bernard is so confused because he's arguing with them that it's not stroke. So they told him, you look after the children. We're gonna take Emily to the nearest hospital. So they said Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which is about 30 minutes from our house. But my husband said after they left, they called straight away and said, no, come to Royal Adelaide because we're gonna lose her if we go to Queen Elizabeth. It was farther. Yeah, so he was told, just come to the emergency room, they will direct you. So I got to the hospital. So sad. I was on life support for 7 days. I was in ICU for 2 weeks, and while I was on life support, they told my husband I will never walk, talk, read, or write again because of the type of stroke I'd had. And my husband just said, can I go in when I was on life support just to pray for her? He came in and prayed for me. Anyway, I was on in the stroke ward for 3 months. And then I was taken to rehab. In Australia, if you get a stroke, automatically after the hospital stay, you're transferred to rehab automatically because they believe that immediately starting rehab will help. So at this point, I lost my memory, I couldn't remember my children, my husband, couldn't speak. But at rehab, I'm seeing 5 therapists, and they start to teach me how to count 3 months into rehab. And in 3 months, I could count to 3, and I was so excited. And I'm telling my speech pathologist, oh, that means I can go back to university and finish my MBA because a stroke is an attack of the brain. So, but if I could remember to count to 3 tomorrow, that means I'm teachable again. But of course, I said, oh no, Emily, you know, with stroke, there's short-term goals and long-term goals. Doing an MBA is a long-term goal. And I was so sad that she couldn't believe this with me. I prayed and I told God, please help me. Let's show them who you are. And yeah.
Here you are doing an interview, speaking clearly. Yeah, but if we could kind of fast forward to starting the company.
Yes.
And now the changes and the shifts you're making in the disability housing space in Australia.
Yeah. So 8 months I'm in rehab. It's time for me to be discharged home. They have to send an OT, occupational therapist, to come and make sure I'm being discharged to a safe environment. We had just built this house. You know, when you're a migrant, when you build a house, it's the biggest thing you can do. But they came and they looked at what needed to be modified, because remember, I was paralyzed on my right side. I still don't have any feeling on my right side, but I have full function. So they needed to modify. It was going to cost so much money to modify the house. Remember, my husband has been a single father for the last 18 months, only one working. This house actually was almost being foreclosed on. So my husband thought, he's an amazing husband, and he thought, you know what, how about we rent this house and go and find an accessible house for us to move into until you get better. We started looking for an accessible house to rent.
Nothing.
Look for one to buy. And that became the business. And now we build accessible housing for people with disabilities. We employ 300 staff, and we operate from 4 states in Australia. And we are so honored to be able to do this for families who trust us to provide the right housing, the right support for their loved ones.
What has the impact been? And you're doing this in, well, what we'd call a first world country, right? How did you break into that space in the way you did?
So when this happened, so you know God is a good God, is a God of plans. We now call it a stroke of luck, because when all this was happening, Australia was coming up with a new way of providing supports for people with disabilities. It's called the NDIS, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is not income tested. It's for anyone with a disability, with a diagnosis. You go to NDIS and they give you a plan based on your diagnosis and what you need. And they were commercializing it. Before it was government-based, they were commercializing it. So anybody that has the qualifications could register and become an NDIS provider. And we were the first ones in South Australia. Was a trial state for adults and New South Wales. And I think that was just God being there at the right time. And we always say, in his timing, he makes everything beautiful.
You were then nominated for Australian of the Year.
Yes.
First of all, take me through that, what it meant for you in terms of the work that you're doing and what they saw, what they identified in your work.
So to be nominated for Australian of the Year, they have to look at what you've done socially, especially what you've done for the community. Before that, we had been nominated for Telstra Business of the Year award. This is a big award in Australia. It's done by, I think it will be close to, maybe like Safaricom. Telstra is the biggest telecom in Australia. And it's a very rigorous award. They look at your finances, they look at the work you do, they look at excellence in everything that you do. That's from staff and for the services that you provide. So from that, then someone locally, I think an MP, had nominated me as Australian of the Year. And for me, that was this little girl from Salt, the most remote part of Bomet is here nominated as Australian of the Year. It's just God. He gives above and beyond what we could ever imagine.
So I know you're back here, well, mainly for your son and his tennis tournament, but you also do quite a bit of work in the area of FGM, anti-FGM campaigns.
Yes.
Talk to us more about why that's important to you.
So stopping FGM is a very personal story for me. My mom was circumcised when she had me, when they found out she was pregnant with me. And the problems that she went through during my pregnancy was because of that. I am the first one in my family on my mom's side not to go through FGM. And FGM in the 21st century, we shouldn't be talking about it. It's truly barbaric. It should not be happening. So since 2014, we've been working with women. We started in Chemanar, which is in Bomet as well. Kericho, Nakuru, we've worked with over 4,500 girls trying to stop this in this generation. We are hoping so. We are looking forward to doing more. We have partnered with a doctor in Australia. We're coming next year. They're going to do free, she reverses FGM, and she's coming with her team to offer free services.
Ahead of tomorrow, as we wrap up, Emily, what would you want to do in terms of, and you're already starting it, but changing the perception towards disability? Here in Kenya, across the continent, Africa, a completely different kind of stigma is attached to having a disability. But how would you want to change the narrative?
First and foremost is really we need education for people to know that no disability is caused by witchcraft, none. It's all neurological, born with, or accident. So anybody with a disability, it is no witchcraft involved. If we can start that education, that conversation, that would be amazing. And if Kenya as a government can also look at accessible housing for people with disabilities within the social housing that's happening now, that would be a life changer and also a narrative changer, not just in Africa, because accessible housing is actually a global issue. It's not just Africa or even in Australia, it's still inadequate. So we truly hope, we're having a conversation with National Council of Disability on Thursday, and we're really excited with the collaboration that we're about to have with them. We have a foundation, and that will be working with, we've already been working with children with cerebral palsy in Nairobi, the 3 slums, and Kitui, and we're looking forward to doing more with National Council.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for your time.
Really appreciate it, and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Let's take a short break here on Citizen Weekend. Sports news coming up next. Stay with us.